Chapter 1, Traveling Through Time and Becoming a King. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ding, 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 mission accomplished. Energy reserves critical. Entering temporary stasis. The robotic voice pulled Li Mufan from a deep sleep. He woke to dust and the thunder of hooves. The jarring ride churned his stomach, while a sharp pain radiated from the arrow sticking out of his right arm. Where the heck am I? Wasn't I just gaming? That he was flat on his back on a horse. He glanced around and saw a young knight in red armor, face etched with worry, urging his mount forward. Dozens more knights in red helmets flanked him, riding hard. Noticing Li Mufan stir, the first knight looked down, his face lighting up when he saw Li Mufan staring back, confused. Your Majesty. Cheng's forces are closing in. What are our orders? Where do we run? Your Majesty. He's talking to me. Li Mufan felt like his body was falling apart, his head swimming. Suddenly, a torrent of memories flooded his mind. A splitting headache, then darkness. He passed out again. Dawn broke, painting the forest floor with sunlight. Rays filtered through the leaves, landing on him. He smelled earth, and a delicate, almost floral scent. He opened his eyes to find himself cradled in a girl's arms. Red-armored soldiers sprawled haphazardly around them in the thick undergrowth. Your Majesty, you're awake. The girl's voice was a relieved gasp. Looking at her blood-smeared, dirt-streaked face, Li Mufan blushed. His new memories slammed into him. He'd time-traveled and become the king of a tiny, besieged kingdom. This wasn't Earth. It was a place called the Tianhun continent. He, or rather, the body he now inhabited, was also named Li Mufan, once a vassal of the Yunqin Empire and ruler of the Sun and Moon Kingdom, but a year into his reign, a palace coup had ripped him from his throne. On his wedding night, no less. He was overthrown, chased from the capital, and run ragged to this very spot. The girl holding him was Fan Qingyue, the palace guard captain and the only female guard in the whole place. She was tough, a first-level fighter. When the rebels attacked, she and the loyal royal guard had fought tooth and nail to get him out of the capital and keep him alive. But along the way, he'd taken a poisoned arrow to the arm. That's when his soul had skipped town, and his, Li Mufan's, had moved in. Fan Qingyue, seeing a hint of color return to his pale face, a huge improvement over his unconscious state, breathed a sigh of relief. She tightened the red cloak wrapped around them both and called out, General Zhao. His Majesty is awake. Moments later, in a small clearing, Li Mufan, dressed in the Sun and Moon King's robes, sat stiffly on a boulder. A quick bite to eat and a swig of water had done him some good. He cleared his throat, surveying the hundreds of Redwood army guards kneeling before him. Please, rise. His voice was weak, a little shaky. The guards rose as one, shouting, Thank you, Your Majesty. Absorbing the original Li Mufan's memories, he was getting the hang of this king thing. He sighed inwardly, then said firmly, Lu Long. A tall, young soldier at the front snapped to attention, fists clenched. Here, sir. Chapter 2 Where to Go. You are listening at novelfull.audio. How long have I been out? The king's voice was weak. And where are we now? I remember blacking out before. The young general hesitated a moment. Your Majesty, we're near Canaan Pass, on the kingdom's southern border. I got you out of the palace 5 days ago. You were hit by an arrow and haven't woken up since. We decided to try and get you to the Yunqin Empire for safety. The plan was to report King Cheng's rebellion to their emperor and ask for help to crush the uprising. He knelt, bowing his head. I failed to protect you, Your Majesty. I beg your forgiveness. Li Mufan looked at the blood-soaked general and soldiers. General, stand up, he said gravely. If it weren't for you all, I'd be dead. You've done nothing wrong. Seeing their worried faces, he continued, General Lu, do you really think the Yunqin Empire will help me get my throne back? Lu Long looked surprised. He glanced at Fan Qingyue and the other guard captains before answering uncertainly, Your Majesty, you're the rightful king. Surely the Empire won't ignore a traitor's rebellion. Li Mufan shook his head. This coup was timed perfectly. right in the middle of my wedding. King Cheng had to have been planning it for a while. I don't believe the empire didn't at least turn a blind eye. Otherwise, the consequences for them would be too severe. King Cheng probably sold us out, promised them something huge to get them to stay out of it. Fan Qingyue, the female general, spat out, her face twisted with anger. If King Cheng were there, she looked ready to tear him apart. Seeing the protectiveness in her eyes, Li Mufan said, General Fan is right. The empire's leaders aren't going to do anything unless there's something in it for them. Going to Yunqin could be dangerous. The rebels are probably watching the border, waiting for us to walk right into their trap. The guards exchanged confused glances. If they couldn't go to the Yunqin Empire, what were they supposed to do? Li Mufan studied their faces, seeing anxiety but also steadfast loyalty. They're a brave bunch, all right, he thought. General Lu, how many soldiers do we have left? Your Majesty, we lost a lot of good men along the way. I've got 255 men left from my guard. Li Mufan nodded, his expression grim. General Lu, you've served on the frontier. Tell me about our borders. Lu Long straightened up. Yes, Your Majesty. To the south and southwest, we share a border with the Yunqin Empire. It's always been lightly defended with just Canaan Pass and fewer than 10,000 soldiers and only 3 or 4 generals. To the west is the Shiha Kingdom, another Yunqin vassal. It's weakly defended as well. The north is the barbarian Bull clan. They and other tribes have been raiding us from the grasslands more lately, so we've got most of our best troops up there. The east is elf territory. They're a mysterious, powerful race, so we don't really defend that border except for a few garrisons to avoid misunderstandings. Xian-level race, Li Mufan blinked, understanding immediately. Chapter 3, Kill this couple and chop them up. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Tianhan continent was a vast place, home to countless races. After eons of conflict, these races had formed a rigid hierarchy, sorted into 4 tiers: Heaven, Earth, Xian, and Huang. The heaven-level races were the most powerful and advanced. Few in number, they controlled the majority of the continent's resources and enjoyed every privilege imaginable. Next came the Earth-level races, also relatively rare. They too wielded immense resources and enjoyed most of the benefits. Then there were the Xian-level races. Far more numerous than the Heaven and Earth tiers, their status was significantly lower. The elves belonged to this group. Finally, at the bottom, were the Huang-level races. They were the most populous but possessed only meager resources, privileges. Forget about it. These races, including humans and barbarians, were oppressed and exploited. Li Mufan inherited all his predecessors' memories and understood the implications of this rigid racial structure. However, as someone raised under a different system, he struggled to accept such a hierarchical racial system. After a long pause, as Li Mufan seemed to steel himself to speak, the sound of approaching hooves broke the silence. Startled, he looked up and saw a guard in red armor. He breathed a sigh of relief. The guard dismounted in a hurry. Spotting the king and the other guards, he immediately knelt on one knee. Zhang Tai, captain of the guard battalion, reporting to His Majesty. Li Mufan nodded. At ease. Lu Long jumped in. Tai Tu, I sent you to Canaan Pass to get intel. What's the situation? Zhang Tai glanced nervously at Li Mufan, then back at Lu Long, unsure of what to say. Li Mufan frowned, a sense of dread creeping over him. What did you find out? Spill it. Your Majesty, bad news. King Cheng was crowned yesterday. Li Mufan sneered, unsurprised. So, that traitor finally took the throne. Seeing the king's calm reaction, Zhang Tai proceeded cautiously. Your Majesty, Prime Minister Wang oversaw the coronation. The princess herself presented the sun and moon scepter, announced your 10 major crimes, and declared you dead. King Cheng, the traitor, then said that in 3 years from now. 3 years from now what? Li Mufan asked sharply, his face darkening. He already had a bad feeling about this. Zhang Tai, never having seen the king like this before, looked at Li Mufan, who seemed ready to explode, and then at the silent and dejected Lu Long and Fan Qingyue. He finally blurted out, his voice trembling, "He will marry the princess once the 3-year mourning period is over." "Bastard! That bitch!" Li Mufan roared, the events of the wedding day flashing through his mind. The more he thought about it, the angrier he became. "So, that's why she kept pushing me to drink that day. She was planning to steal the scepter while I was drunk and pull all the troops guarding the palace." That everyone's hearts sank, realizing the princess was in on the coup. Seeing the young emperor lose his cool, they didn't know what to do. "Lu Long! Saddle my horse. We're taking the men back to the palace. I'm going to tear that bitch apart." Li Mufan, consumed by rage, wanted to charge back right then and there. Lu Long instantly jumped to his feet, shouting, "I'm with you, Your Majesty. Let's ride back to the city and punish those traitors." That he was equally hot-headed. He couldn't stand the thought of his beloved king being cuckolded. Chapter 4 Wang Mengyu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Fan Qingyue panicked when she realized they were actually going back to the royal city. She dropped to her knees, pleading, "Your Majesty. The royal city is a fortress. You'll be walking into a trap. Please, Your Majesty, reconsider." Seeing Li Mufan unmoved and about to mount his horse, she desperately grabbed his leg. "Your Majesty, discretion is the better part of valor. Don't throw your life away." The guards all knelt, shouting in unison, "Your Majesty, please think again." The roar was deafening. Li Mufan froze, a flicker of reason returning to his eyes. He glared at the general clinging to his leg, then at the 200+ guards kneeling before him, and roared at the sky. "Li Haotian, Wang Mengyu, and Wang Fuchen, I swear, one day I'll have my revenge. Let's ride westward." With that final shout, he leaped onto his horse and led his personal guard west at a full gallop. 5 days later, Sun Moon City, early morning, Palace Gardens, in a secluded lakeside pavilion, a girl with black hair and dressed in elaborate palace robes sipped her tea. This was Wang Mengyu, Li Mufan's newlywed wife. "My darling. An hour apart feels like a lifetime. Every moment without you is torture. I miss you so much." Suddenly, a tall young man in the robes of the Sun and Moon King grinned as he sat opposite her. This was Li Haotian, the kingdom's new emperor. Wang Mengyu simply smiled and changed the subject. "I heard Li Mufan and his traitors were spotted near Canaan Pass a few days ago. How did you handle it, Your Majesty?" Li Haotian shook his head. Prime Minister Wang anticipated they'd try to slip past Canaan Pass and seek refuge with the empire. "We had a trap set, but somehow, that kid slipped through our fingers. Word from the front is he's headed west." "West?" Wang Mengyu frowned. "The Shiha kingdom lies to the west. While they're part of the same empire, relations haven't been good for years. Could those traitors be planning to throw themselves on their mercy?" "It's possible." Li Haotian nodded. Baizaji of Shiha Kingdom has always had expansionist ambitions. He might see this as an opportunity. The empire tends to look the other way when vassal states squabble. If Shiha Kingdom uses him, it'll be a pain. I've already alerted the general at Pingxi Pass. Another 10,000 troops marched out the day before yesterday. If they try to pass that way, they'll be caught in a pincer movement." Wang Mengyu didn't reply, gazing thoughtfully at the clear lake. After a moment, she sighed softly. "Your Majesty, you've thought of everything. If he tries to flee west, he's as good as caught. But you're missing something. The late king held a grudge against Baizaji. Knowing that, why would he seek refuge in Shiha Kingdom?" Li Haotian frowned. "Oh. What else is there? Where do you think they'll run to?" "Your Majesty, I heard that there's a tower in Dongshan City called Wangjiang Tower. From there, you can see the Yinsang River rushing through the Yixin Gorge. The view is supposed to be incredible. Would you like to accompany me there?" Li Haotian was taken aback, then chuckled in understanding. "If you're inviting, how could I refuse? Let me make a few arrangements, and we'll head to Dongshan City first thing tomorrow." Chapter 5 System Startup. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 10 days later, they arrived in Dongshan City, in the Sun and Moon Kingdom. This city, nestled on the kingdom's eastern border, gets its name from its location between two mountains. As the largest city in the east and the kingdom's actual border crossing, anyone entering or leaving from this direction has to go through Dongshan City. The reason? The kingdom's eastern side is practically all cliffs. This area is the only relatively gentle terrain. Everywhere else, the mountains are too steep to navigate. That makes Dongshan a bustling border town, packed with travelers and caravans. Early morning finds Dongshan City already alive with activity. It's a different vibe from the royal city. Being on the border, it sees a lot of merchants, including foreign caravans, mostly races on the same level as humans. The higher-tier races, like the Xian level, wouldn't bother with human territory, not even the elves, who are relatively peaceful neighbors. Inside a small inn, Li Mufan, dressed in simple green clothes, listened to Lu Long's report in his room. During their escape, they'd been forced to rob a caravan of 300-plus people. Sure, the caravan had guards, but they were no match for the royal guard camp. They took apart the caravan in no time, grabbing a ton of food and over 1,000 gold coins. Without it, they wouldn't have had the supplies to keep running. Li Mufan used the money to buy over 200 sets of plain clothes from nearby villages at inflated prices, helping them blend in. Young master, your feint to the west worked like a charm. Zhang Tai just reported that the enemy has moved 10,000 elite troops to the western border. You're a genius, I tell you. Li Mufan grinned, pleased. Of course. It's all going according to plan. Now, enough with the flattery. Did you take care of what I asked? After spending the last few days with him, Lu Long and the rest of the guards were getting used to the young king. He wasn't the unapproachable ruler they expected. He was just a regular guy, capable of laughter, anger, sadness, and confusion. As long as you didn't make him mad, he was easy to deal with. Lu Long, who had the most contact with the king, even joked around with him a little in private. Now, he chuckled. Everything's done, master. General Fan and a few of the boys have already left the city disguised as horse traders. The other two groups are in position, just waiting for your word. Li Mufan nodded. Good work. You checked the city gates, right? How's the security? Any wanted posters with our faces? Lu Long replied. Dongshan City is the kingdom's eastern gateway. The walls are 15 steps high, made of solid bluestone, seriously tough. The gates are ebony, heavy and nearly impossible to break through. But the weird thing is, we didn't see any wanted posters with our likenesses at the gate. Li Mufan frowned. That's not right. Something's fishy. You guys are supposed to be wanted as rebels. There's no way they wouldn't have your faces plastered all over Dongshan City. So, master, should we still proceed as planned? Lu Long seemed unsure. Li Mufan said, we'll adapt. Tell the others to stick to the original plan. Yes, sir. I'll let them know right away. Lu Long saluted and left the room. Alone, Li Mufan rested his chin on one hand, tapping the table rhythmically with his other index finger, a soft tap, tap, tap. It was a habit from his previous life. Whenever he was deep in thought or unsure about something, he'd unconsciously tap his finger. He said to stick to the plan, but a nagging sense of unease wouldn't leave him. Suddenly, a mechanical female voice echoed in his head. Hey, energy restored. Host successfully survived for over 20 days. System activating and binding. Binding successful. Installing system. Installation successful. Countdown initiated. 10. 9. 8. Li Mufan's jaw dropped. The sudden voice froze him in place. Chapter 6, My Golden Finger is Awesome. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As the countdown hit 0, darkness flashed before his eyes, then light, and suddenly he was in a place he'd never seen before. The sight almost blinded him. Holy crap. This is over the top. It looked like a square bedroom, not huge, but seriously luxurious. Golden floor tiles gleamed. In the center of the room was a ridiculously large golden bed with a solid gold nightstand on one side, at the other end was a fluffy, snow-white sofa. In the corner stood a jade statue, about 3 feet tall, on either side of the golden door. Bright red roses filled the room with a subtle floral scent, a fancy crystal chandelier illuminated everything. The carvings on the ceiling were incredibly detailed, pure art. Li Mufan just stood there, stunned, then something clicked. He threw open the door and bolted out. He ran down a silver-lined corridor, noting the stylish wall lamps and the faint hum of machinery. The corridor ended in a corner. What was around it? He found a huge, silver-plated circular hall, brightly lit, with rows of high-tech metal workstations arranged neatly, the over-the-top decor and the advanced equipment he'd mentally prepared for. What floored him was that he wasn't alone. 8 ridiculously good-looking young men and women were staring at him calmly, putting it all together, what he'd seen, what he'd heard, and the system the voice in his head had mentioned. It all made sense. Ring World. This was the inner world of the game, Ring World, that he'd been playing before. All this, and it was the base he'd worked so hard to build. Ding dong, welcome to the Ring World space. You can stay here for 10 days. After that, your consciousness will be forcibly returned to your body. Time flows differently here. While your mind is in this space, no time will pass in the outside world. Ding dong, host Li Mufan has received a newbie gift pack, follower card X2. Use them to bring 2 colonists from your base into the real world. Ding dong, friendly reminder, if you have any questions, call on the system for help at any time. A series of prompts echoed in his mind. Chang, Li Mufan asked tentatively. Here, sir. A handsome, athletic young man snapped to attention and gave a crisp salute. Xuanhuan. Here, sir. A beautiful young woman with a ponytail stepped forward, standing tall and saluting sharply. A show, Xiao Yi, Kai Xian, Chui Huan, Kai Lian, a Ji. Li Mufan rattled off 6 names, and the remaining 6 stepped forward immediately. They all snapped to attention and shouted in unison, giving a standard military salute, subordinate salute, master. Welcome back from your expedition. Good, good, good. He repeated good 3 times, grinning from ear to ear. Chang, Chui Hua, you 2 come with me. Let's take a look around. The rest of you, get back to work. Chapter 7, Powerful Colonists. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Got it. That everyone echoed the agreement and got back to work. Li Mufan designated Xiang and Xuanhuan as the first 2 residents of the base, setting all their skills to level 10. Thanks to the careful preparation perk which allows attributes to be adjusted. While character attributes usually vary, this mod allows complete control over the initial colonists. Of course, any characters added later couldn't have their attributes adjusted. This being a survival and development game, skills were crucial. There were 12 skills total: socializing, animal handling, medicine, cooking, construction, planting, mining, art, crafting, and intelligence, with levels ranging from 0 to 20. Setting Xiang and Xuanhuan's skills to level 10 felt just right, not game-breaking, but definitely helpful. After escorting them from the central rotunda and down the silver corridor, Li Mufan, eyeing their calm demeanor, thought, "System, how do I check their stats?" A mechanical voice in his head responded. You unlocked the exploration skill upon entering this space. Just focus on the person and mentally whisper to them to check their attributes. Got it. He stopped, turned to face Xiang and Xuanhuan, who also halted, and silently commanded, explore. Instantly, Xiang's profile popped into his mind. Name, Xiang, martial arts, 3rd level of physical refinement, reinforced steel. Command, 2. Politics, 1. Strategy, 0. Social, 10. Taming, 10. Medical, 15. Cooking, 12. Build, 17. Planted, 9. Mining, 16. Art, 8. Handmade, 11. Intelligence, 8. Skills would slowly improve through consistent use and decrease if neglected, given the base's 7-year history. Xiang's stats had naturally changed from the initial settings. Li Mufan studied Xiang's panel. Everything mirrored the original game, except that shooting and fighting were gone, replaced by martial arts. Also, there were 3 new stats: command, politics, and strategy. System: why are shooting and fighting gone? What's with these new stats? That he had an idea, but wanted a clear explanation. The system responded quickly: to align with the power system of your world, the colonists' shooting and fighting skills were converted into martial arts using complex formulas. Colonist Xiang's strength is equivalent to a 3rd-level physical refinement warrior in the Tianhan continent, hence the 3rd level of physical refinement, reinforced steel, designation. However, due to a gene enhancer, his physical functions exceed those of ordinary humans. So, his actual strength is slightly above other warriors of the same level. Similarly, to adapt to your world, command, politics, and strategy were added. Li Mufan chuckled, nodding in satisfaction. The Tianhan continent had a well-defined ranking system for power. Li Mufan knew there were 10 levels of body training, body cultivation, strength training, steel, iron bones, courage, 6 gods, pulse condensation, marrow quenching, and divine transformation. Chapter 8. Sorry, you do not have enough authority. You are listening at novelfull.audio. There are realms beyond the physical, but since I'm not strong enough, I don't know the specifics. Given the limitations of humans, anyone in the Yunqin Empire's kingdoms who makes it to the physical realm is considered remarkable. Take Lu Long and Fan Qingyue, for example. One's at the 2nd level, the other at the 1st. They're already the elite of the kingdom's younger generation. That's why they're generals in the Redwood Guard Battalion. Physical realm cultivation is tough unless you have extraordinary talent. Regular folks need tons of resources to even reach the 1st level. And considering the situation on the continent, those resources are scarce. After getting this basic info, Li Mufan used a detection spell on Xuanhuan. Name: Xuanhuan, martial power, 2nd level physical training realm, strength training, command, 1. Politics, 1. Strategy, 1. Social, 8. Beast taming, 13. Medical, 12. Cooking, 15. Construction, 11. Planting, 18. Mining, 9. Art, 8. Crafts, 15. Intelligence, 9. Xuehua and Xiang have a clear division of labor. Xiang handles the heavy lifting, construction, and mining, while Xuehua takes on the lighter tasks like planting and crafts. Over time, their skills have diverged. After a moment's thought, Li Mufan made up his mind: these two have the best stats in the whole base. Plus, they're a couple. Who else would I give the 2 follower cards from the newbie pack to? Li Mufan took them on a tour of the luxurious base, but they remained quiet and unresponsive. He mentally asked the system a question. The mechanical voice responded quickly: within the ring world, colonists only possess skills and strength. They don't have developed personalities. They'll only start developing personalities slowly when the host takes them outside the space and they interact with the real world for an extended period. Li Mufan was a little stunned. So, they're basically blank slates right now. What about their intelligence? The system stated. The colonists' intelligence is equivalent to that of adults. That's a relief. He breathed a sigh of relief. Even with strong abilities, they'd be useless if they were too dumb to understand simple commands. The base is built inside a huge cave. They'd been wandering around for half an hour, and still hadn't seen even half of it. Li Mufan stopped in front of a warehouse door, looking at the automated, silver gate. He thought to himself. If I remember correctly, this is supposed to be the weapons warehouse. And man, this door is ridiculously fancy. Back when he played the game on his computer, he wouldn't have noticed, but now, standing here in the base, he was truly experiencing what luxury and a tycoon lifestyle really meant. The silver door sensed his presence and automatically slid open, revealing a dazzling array of weapons and ammunition: assault rifles, charge rifles, rapid-fire machine guns, all kinds of advanced modern weaponry. Li Mufan's heart skipped a beat. He quickly asked the system, "Hey, if the colonists can be taken out of the system, can items be taken out too?" The system's mechanical voice replied, "Yes. In principle, all items in this space can be transferred to the outside world. However, you don't have sufficient authority at this time." Chapter 9. You are not deliberately trying to trick me, are you? You are listening at novelfull.audio. The system chimed, only items from the Stone Age and Feudal Age can be transferred. Industrial Age and Space Age items are off-limits. Also, each transfer requires silver. Li Mufan nodded, understanding the tech-era divisions. But what about my authority level? Your current level is LV1, the system explained. You can upgrade only by completing system-issued tasks. Tasks? A bad feeling crept in, the system's voice confirmed his fears. Ding. First system mission initiated. Build a survival base outside within 60 days. The base must house at least 200 people. Completion earns you 2 follower cards and a random gift. Failure results in deletion. Deletion. Without missing a beat, he blurted out, "Nope. I refuse." Ding. Insufficient authority to refuse. Son of a. Li Mufan was furious. He wasn't even sure if he could escape Dongshan City, and now he had to build a whole base. In just 60 days. That was a tall order. After a moment of frantic thought, he made a snap decision. He yelled for Qiang and Xuanhuan, who were behind him, "Get 3 forges up and running, stat." Everyone drops what they're doing and starts crafting steel swords. High quality only. Yes, sir, that they snapped to attention and vanished down the corridor. System, I need 255 high-quality steel swords, 255 sets of chainmail, 255 iron bows, 5,100 arrows, and 2,550 simple meals. Calculate the total cost. Li Mufan had 255 soldiers in the guards battalion back in the real world. Equipping them well, even if it couldn't boost their individual strength, would significantly improve their survival odds. Ding. These feudal-era items incur a double transfer fee. Total cost, 103,128 silver. What? Li Mufan nearly jumped out of his skin. It was a lot of gear, sure, but the price was insane. He'd spent 7 years developing this base and was considered wealthy, but he only had 100,000 silver in the vault. This would bankrupt him. System, are you trying to screw me over? 100 grand for some cold steel? If I wanted guns and cannons, would I have to sell the base for scrap? The system remained coldly indifferent. Industrial-era items require 5 times the base price and LV2 permissions. 5 times. Li Mufan decided he was done negotiating with this scam artist. After a pause, he skipped his usual supervisory tour of the colonists in the central rotunda, headed straight for the warehouse, grabbed a large knife, and made a beeline for the entertainment hall. The luxurious hall was spacious, with a giant flat-screen TV mounted on a silver wall. Rows of comfy alpaca chairs faced the screen for leisure viewing. In one corner, a solid gold billiard table stood gleaming, with several jade pool cues casually scattered around it. In another corner, 2 solid gold chess tables completed the picture of obscene wealth. Chapter 10, Evolution of Your Own Team's Weapons. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Li Mufan wasn't in a celebratory mood. He stood in the middle of the room, practicing sword moves. Strength was everything on the Tianhan continent. Even though humans were physically weaker, they had a cultivation heritage. His sword technique, the Thunder Sword technique, was passed down by his father. His father always said the technique was created by their ancestors and was incredibly powerful. Sadly, over time, parts of it had been lost. All that remained was the Thunder Sword body refining volume, but even a fragment was valuable. His father, Li Ding, had used this technique to dominate battlefields and expand the Sun and Moon Kingdom's territory. Growing up sheltered in the palace, Li Mufan had been gentle, even a little weak. He'd never enjoyed fighting, and practiced martial arts mainly to get by, but that was then. He knew he had to learn now. Time flew. One moment Li Mufan was practicing his swordsmanship, the next, everything went dark and he was back in the guest room. The tea on the table still steamed, and the setting sun streamed through the bamboo window. Everything was exactly as he'd left it. He paused, disoriented. Then he heard hurried footsteps outside the door. Lu Long burst in, saying urgently, "Master, 2 young men are here claiming to be your followers, Li Mufan laughed. Let them in, quick. Half a day later, Lu Long's eyes bugged out as he stared at the fine steel chainmail, gleaming swords, and brand new iron bows loaded onto the ox carts. Panting, he asked Li Mufan, Master, is all this ours? Li Mufan gave him a look. It's just some ordinary weapons and armor. Get a grip. Lu Long's eyes sparkled as he continued to stare. Ordinary. A set of low-grade armor goes for 200 gold coins. This looks like middle-grade stuff. We've hit the jackpot. On the Tianhan continent, everything from elixirs to weapons was ranked. The lowest was unranked, followed by ordinary, spiritual, holy, and divine. Each rank had 4 grades, low, middle, upper, and extreme. Humans, being at the bottom, mainly used low-grade equipment. Only the elite might have ordinary weapons. The Sun and Moon Scepter, the symbol of power, was barely spiritual grade. These 3 carts were loaded with ordinary grade weapons and equipment. Even Lu Long, who thought he'd seen it all, was stunned. Li Mufan smirked, thinking, my colonists are master craftsmen. Turning out this kind of stuff is easy. He clapped Lu Long on the shoulder. Alright, snap out of it. Aqiang and Xuanhuan are my guys from before. Don't worry about them. They'll keep me safe. Seeing Lu Long still staring at the carts, Li Mufan's forehead vein throbbed. He kicked him in the rear, shouting, distribute the equipment, 1 set per person. Give the innkeeper 10 gold coins to keep his mouth shut. Lu Long snapped to attention. Yes, sir. Right away.